Hello and welcome back to the second and final episode of Perth to Paisley at the 2024 Euros because, let's be honest, the results happened the way we probably all knew they were going to happen as Scotland went out at the group stages, as we do every single group stage that has ever existed at an international tournament, to a draw against Switzerland and a last gasp loss against Hungary. To discuss all of that and what that means for going forward with the national team, I am Danny McIver, and as ever, I am joined by Adam Kennedy. If you're listening to this, I thought he rocked up in a shirt, but no, he's in an older Scotland top. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, McIver. Thought I'd dig out a Scotland top for when we actually got forward at European Championships and scored goals. Yeah, you say kind of, and the results kind of went the way that we expected. If anything, I'd probably say that it would be the other way about in terms of fixture,
Yeah, that's
considering we
fair.
just got beat
Yeah.
5-1 in the opening game, but then to respond like we did was great. Gave us a chance. And of course, the Scotland national team, being the Scotland national team, decided to blow said opportunity. Yeah, it literally just feels like a carbon copy of 3 years ago, where
Yeah.
it's like the first game, we're a bit shell shocked, a little bit stage fright kicks in, respond really well, get a point when we least expect it in the second, and then served our dinner in the last. And before you know it, we're heading home. I was going to say, but obviously 3 years ago we
We
were
were
just
home.
we're just going back down the road. Whereas here, it's trains, planes, and automobiles to get home. So yeah, pretty disappointed. Um, really quite frustrated, but not too surprised, sadly.
I think that's a pretty perfect summary of how I'm feeling, of how a lot of Scotland fans and Scottish people generally are feeling. But as you mentioned, we'll start with some levels of positivity, even though it now means literally nothing. But the Switzerland game finished 1-1. One of the reasons we conceded was from just a mental decision by Tony Ralston. And of course, Scotland concede an absolute fucking worldie,
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
always do, it
If it's
seems.
not Patrick Schick from 50 yards, it's
Yeah,
Sherdan Shaqiri just getting his trademark tournament goal. I mean, he's his record in major tournaments is
unbelievable.
unbelievable. Like he is the epitome of like a talented player, but I can't help but think of him playing for Switzerland as opposed to actually
Yeah,
playing for a club.
he only
Like he's
spawns during international
yeah,
tournaments. He does nothing
scores
for the two
worldies.
years. Yeah,
Um, you mentioned Tony Ralston there. I feel for the guy.
so do
I
I.
do. I do. He's out his depth. It's unfair. Um,
And I actually thought, see, outside of that, see in the second half of that game, and for the
I thought he
entire time
responded pretty well.
he was on the pitch for Hungary, I thought he was all right.
I know. I know. It's just that like that one fatal error, and even then, like he plays the pass back. Nobody's really expecting Shaqiri to score from there.
Yeah, it's still
Like
an unbelievable
it's a
finish.
pinpoint finish. Um, but it's not his fault that Aaron Hickey, who's by far and away our first choice, is out injured. Nathan Patterson, who again's a better option, is out injured. Yeah, I really felt for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. By the way, just a little fun fact: Portugal are currently getting beat by Georgia.
Wow, bloody hell.
I imagine that
Jesus,
won't
that
stay.
kicked off about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it was He scored it in like 81 seconds or something like that.
Oh, nice of Faradona to finally turn up. That's good of him.
Now, I don't think that will stay the same. So by the time you listen to this podcast, when Portugal have run out 7-1 winners, you're like, God, they got in early. But I just saw that there.
Wow.
Listen, the two main
Sorry,
positives of this
McIver.
tournament.
Do you remember when in qualifying we beat Georgia home and away?
Yeah, I do.
And then they throw up that at the tournament. It's like, how. Even the Turkey game, they were well in the Turkey game.
That's the best game of the Euros so far.
By a million miles. And it was
Oh,
one I was
Albania
least
Croatia was
looking forward
close.
to.
Albania
Like,
Croatia was close for
these
me.
games that you think are going to be rubbish turned out to be brilliant.
Yep.
Romania, Ukraine as well,
Oh,
another
that
one.
was so good. They've just rocked up, scored worldies, and got a class kit. Like,
Exactly.
play to
They're
them.
just doing what they want.
This tournament's been so good, apart from
Bar
Scotland.
Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have got our arses felt. We've been
We are the single worst
Embarrassed.
tournament team at the tournament. The
It's
worst team at the
it's
tournament.
embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's just really depressing.
But what wasn't depressing was the fact that we actually scored a goal.
Yeah, that was nice.
Now, there was
Well,
initial doubts about the
yeah,
goal in
I was
terms
gonna
of
say
if a
we did
Scotland player scored it.
it. Just add to the ever-growing list of mix.
Yep, exactly. But no, it was given to Scott McTominay. It goes off Fabian Schär's foot, but it was going on target, even though Sommer was clearly just going to kneel down and collect it before it was going
Yeah,
to hit
listen,
him.
we'll take
We will take anything we
it.
can get.
Considering how bad the tournament was on the whole, for that moment, that belief to grow, having taken the lead, you're thinking, right, okay, like this is really good. This is
Yeah.
I'm quite encouraged here. We
And
actually could go on and do something here.
that was the thing. I feel like the general reaction to the Switzerland game was, okay, we've
We'll take
shown we
that.
can do something,
Yeah.
and now we're playing the team that have no points.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the worst teams to have played in the tournament, if you're viewing kind of the first opening two round of fixtures, I would say. Definitely gave us a chance. And do you know what? It's funny. Usually I am as pessimistic as can possibly be with the national team. But I actually did have a glimmer of hope heading into that Hungary game. There was a small part of me that thought, do you know what? We can actually do this. We can beat Hungary. We can finally get out of group stage. And I think that's what makes it all the more annoying and frustrating and just really shit.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I would like to preface the rest of this show by, in case there's people who are not Hearts fans listening to this, just to hear kind of Scottish fans' reactions and aren't familiar with us necessarily. I will preface all of what I'm about to say about the Hunger Game and then the future of the national team is I, I'm not a big Scotland fan. The national team is not on my priority list. I'm very much someone who, if they get to tournaments, I'll watch them. But I don't. Well, I didn't watch any of the qualifiers. I saw highlights of like the Georgia game in all the rain. I didn't watch when we beat Spain.
The longest game in human history,
Yeah,
that.
exactly. That was fun. I more watched the bit where they were trying to get the water off the park.
Shoveling it all.
Yeah, that was better. I didn't watch when we made Roderick cry and stuff like that. Like, so take everything I'm about to say with a massive pinch of salt. If you think I'm being an idiot and reactionary and stuff like that, you're probably right because I'm not really in it for the betterment of the Scotland. I'm just like, what do I want to happen now? And that's kind of my perspective on what we're about to talk about, which is the Hungry Game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to two Scotland games in my life. So
I've also been to two Scotland games in my
if
life.
you think that I'm giving up my hard-earned money to go to Germany and watch that shower of shite, then you're very much mistaken. I feel for the fans. I really do. Like it must just be an addiction that they cannot shake off.
Yeah.
Like the Scotland national team, for all like the supporters have rightfully earned praise, the Germans were devastated to see them go. They've been unbelievable, a credit to the nation throughout the entire tournament. If you follow Scotland home and away, seek help because they build you up to a point before dropping you like a stone each and every time.
Yeah.
That can I just say, as much as I entered the Hungary game with that little PMA, there was a tiny wee part in the back of my skull that thought, how are they going to piss it away this time? How are they going to ruin it for? And then it just, when you watch the 90 minutes, I was literally working. I flew through all my deliveries, got myself a pizza at work. It was like brilliant. I'll head home, tuck into this, watch Scotland, hopefully do it. Was not worth my time.
No. I will say though, I felt the first 15 minutes watching it, I was like, this is quite good. We're keeping our foot on the ball. We're not letting them really get it. And we're not creating a lot yet,
Yeah.
but this
Because
is the
they
game
because they
plan.
they were happy for us to have it.
But that's what then ends up, you
Yeah.
end up getting that realization the more the game goes, you go, oh wait, this is actually Hungary's plan, is to just let us have the ball.
Without a shadow of a doubt. When is the last time that you saw the Scotland national team have, I think what popped up on the BBC's coverage,
77.
77%
Yes,
possession? When? I could not tell.
No.
I've been on this earth for 26 years. I could never tell you a time when that has been the case. And considering we've played some right shite like Liechtenstein, San Marino, the Faroe Islands,
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar, all this crap, we've never dominated the ball like that. Hungary were happy. They've obviously looked at our games and thought, yeah, we'll leave these on the ball. Just two backs of four set up, and then Jobbers can support the striker up front, and just we'll hopefully break on the counter with pace and take a chance when we get it, because we're more than happy for Scotland to have the ball. They don't have the creativity to break us down, and it was just so routine for them.
Yeah, it very much was. Now, the first big talking point is that obviously with Kieran Tierney's really unfortunate injury against Switzerland.
That is just it's an absolute sin for Kieran Tierney, because he's such a talented footballer. He's probably Scotland's best defender, in my opinion.
Probably.
As an out and out defender.
Yeah, as a defender.
As a defender to defend their box, I think Tierney is probably Scotland's best. And yet he's been farmed out on loan to Sociedad from Arsenal. Fulham, I think, are trying to sign him on a cut price deal for 10 million quid.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can keep him fit, that's an absolute snip. It's such a shame for him. A real shame, because when fully fit, he's a top player.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what do you make of the point that people said, okay, Tierney's out, that means we should change to a 4 because the only reason we play a 5 is to facilitate Robertson and Tierney?
Totally agree. You'll never get a better chance to switch to a 4.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was thinking about this. Throughout Steve Clarke's tenure, when has he ever played a back 4?
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. Yeah.
You're asking a lot for us to go into a tournament, and what's he been in charge for now? About 3-4 years? Basically just abandoned the last 3-4 years, and this kind of, not master plan, but his basic tactics, his initial instructions, the setup, you're basically asking to just ditch that now that we're here for the tournament. And look, there'll be folk that will say, well, this is a great chance to get as many attacking players on the pitch. We've got nothing to lose. We should go for this. And I fully agree. I get totally where they're coming from. But whichever way you look at it, the 3/5 at the back has served Scotland pretty well over his tenure, for the most part. I know the form is honking, sort of in the run-up to this tournament, and obviously including this tournament. I'm really concerned with the Nations League games around the corner, that, again, there's tough fixtures. So I just feel like, even in the run-up to this tournament, why did we have to play France and other elite nations? Why the Dutch and whoever? Why could we not have played the jobbers that I mentioned earlier on and just use them as confidence boosts? Is it because we're too scared that if we don't pick up a result against these, then our confidence is shot? Like, the Finland game was a bit of an indicator for me. It indicated that Anthony Ralston was going to start at right wing back, but it also told me that, like, we'll get a chance or two, but it's pretty limited, really.
I know what you mean about how, well, abandoning the 5 is kind of against his entire system that he's spent the last few years.
But that is only to shoehorn 2 players in, like you say.
Yeah, and if there's ever a time to go against what you know, it's a game where you know that a win is the only option.
Yeah, I mean, even post-match, Steve Clarke said we knew that we had to win. Like, he was talking about the concession of the goal, and he said we threw bodies forward because we were trying to get the win that we desperately craved and thought that we needed to advance to the next round. Yeah. After 70 minutes, we decided to make changes.
Yeah, that's the biggest insane thing.
There was no point for the opening hour plus did I ever get the impression that Scotland were actively looking to go and win that game.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Once.
I fully agree. There isn't really much to talk about in the first half because
it was boring.
We just kept the ball.
It was rubbish.
Yeah,
that was comfortably the worst 45 minutes of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we said, Hungary were so happy for us to have it.
Yeah.
And
I,
you're looking for the likes of Billy Gilmore and Callum McGregor to break the lines or get the ball forward, and just didn't really happen.
well, what's that? 20 minutes in nearly? Of course, we're now going to speak about him. It's a record, I think, for a Hearts based podcast. Shea Adams has been horrific at this tournament. Awful.
He has,
Terrible.
but again, it's an absolute graveyard shift. It doesn't
It
even really
is.
matter who's up there on
Yep.
their
I'm
own,
not
really,
taking
does it?
away. I'm not going to try and pretend that.
And I love Lawrence Shankland. I would love nothing more. Of course, we're Hearts fans. I'd love
Yeah.
nothing more than to see Lawrence Shankland, score the winner for Scotland at a major tournament whilst he's still a Hearts player. It would have been amazing, absolutely incredible. But I'm not buying into that. Che Adams was poor. He's not got a lot to feed off, has he? Really?
He doesn't, but there was a moment in actually, I say nothing happened in the first half. There was a point where we had a breakaway, and Adams. There's often the analogy or metaphor where it's that they look like they're running through quicksand. I've never seen a player run where I've felt that that is more accurate. And it really annoyed me because I've been told this whole time that the reason Shea Adams is here is because he's pace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree.
But yes,
I can't dispute that.
I do agree with your point. He wasn't ever going to be like fantastic because of the opposition. But
He's
my point
feeding off
was,
scraps.
yeah, my point was though, right at halftime, it's not working. He is not working. So either get Shankland on with them
To partner
and
him,
try and
yeah.
create something, or take him off and
That would have
put
been my
Shankland
preference
on.
to go two up, because
Yeah, I would have started with them both
I also
personally.
think that throughout Clark's tenure, he absolutely loves Lyndon Dykes.
Yeah,
And look, Lyndon Dykes is not the most prolific of centre forwards. I think it's fair to say, but he is a focal point,
he fits
and he
into
is
Steve Clark's system very well.
precisely. He brings runners into play. His hold up's very good. He's a big lad. He's strong. I just think I think he is so detrimental a loss to the way that Scotland play. So Che Adams, again, like you barely see him and Lyndon Dykes play up front for Scotland.
Yeah.
Adams comes on because everybody's tired out. So again, I thought that Shanklin would take that starting spot and you'd let Che Adams
Yeah,
run it at tired legs.
Shankland be the Dykes of it.
Yeah, even though he's not the same frame but we watch him week to week. We know how good his hold up play is.
Yeah.
We know that he knows where the back of the net is. So I don't know. I wanted Shankland as opposed to Adams, but I can't really slate Che Adams because like I say, it's a graveyard shift. When you're relying on the wing backs to provide the width, one of whom certainly isn't a wing back on the right hand side, and the other is used to playing with top players at club level. I mean, neither of them, they're lucky if they get over the halfway line. So what is Che Adams meant to do realistically? And even then, either side of him, you've got two central midfielders, one of whom isn't wanted by Manchester United and looks better further forward than he does sitting. And the other is the Aston Villa club captain who doesn't play there for Villa. He's only shoehorned up there, but the pair of them are only shoehorned up there because they actually score goals for Scotland somehow in this bizarre system that we play.
So I agree with you that I think it was Adams didn't have a lot to do, but I do think you're being slightly too kind to him because I've noticed I couldn't believe how bad he was in the actual game in terms of his individual performance on the ball.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not saying that he's exempt from criticism because
it really just annoyed me when I was sat going, this is a guy who clearly is not functioning in a single lone striker system. And we have a guy who has over 30, and I mean this out with being a Hearts fan. See if Kevin Nisbet, when he was at Hibs, had scored 30 goals and wasn't getting a game for Scotland in the national tournament, I'd be sat going, what are we doing? Why are we not playing the guy who's got 30 domestic goals?
You've just said it there. If Kevin Nisbet was playing for Millwall and had scored 30 goals, I think Steve Clark would value that more than if he was playing for Hibs and scored 30
I
goals.
agree with that.
He only cares if you're playing in the top two leagues in England. I think he's only taken Lawrence Shankland because he knows he'll be absolutely hounded and slated by the press for going, why have you not taken Scotland's Player of the Year? Look at the remarkable individual season that he's just had. How can you possibly overlook that? We're not blessed with an array of options up front.
Yeah.
It's only just, I mean, Tommy Conway's only just come into the picture
Yeah.
because he's playing in that exact same division. I was half expecting Ross Stewart, who's barely kicked the ball, and Ryan Hardy to get a call up.
Yeah. Like, as I say,
What are we doing?
I'm not saying that as a Hearts fan, I'm like, Lawrence Shankland should have started up front and not been dropped once for the tournament. But I do believe that as a fan of football, Lawrence Shankland should have got more than half an hour across 3 games.
It's snobbery to the level, McIver. This is nothing new as a Scot. You know, like people down south, our league is seen as an absolute joke and a farce. And look, they might be onto something, but I mean, we'll never know if you're not given a sufficient chance. Even the Switzerland game, he brings on Ryan Christie and Lawrence Shankland with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Do you know how little time
Shankland actually did all right.
actually is?
Shankland did actually all right.
He did more in the 4 minutes than Che Adams had done in the previous 85. Yeah.
And I think against Hungary, in the time that Shankland was on, we looked better going forward when Shankland was there.
Shankland was really good when he came on.
Yeah.
So it's like the answer has been staring, it's been hiding in plain sight.
Now, I will say, to slightly get more, the only time this podcast will get serious is that one of the biggest talking points in the game, very rightly, was the horrifically terrifying moment where Barnabas Varga was involved in a collision, and the live camera, it cuts to him, and you can see, as soon as it cuts to him, you can see something is seriously wrong. And there is immediate stoppage. The Hungarian physios and players are creating a barrier with towels.
Dominic Jobbers lies in bits.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, genuinely, I thought I was going to be sick watching it because I was just like, this is the worst thing ever. Now, thankfully, he was able to be removed from the pitch in reasonably quick time, considering the circumstances.
My God, how slow were they in coming on with the stretcher, by the way?
So I have seen
a disgrace.
A lot of first aid people have come out and said it's illegal to run with a stretcher because if you're running towards the person that you are like going to be dealing with, in case you slip, fall, and end up going into them and hurting them more. However, the argument was yes, but not when you're like 80 yards away. Like you can sprint up to a point and then be like, right, okay. And also there's the argument about if you sprint, run, fall, and hurt yourself, then you're not in a position to provide care for those. So I was the same. I was going, what the fuck are you doing? And I understand Szoboszlai being like,
got pelters in the stadium.
Come on,
you could hear the booing and jeering. Because hurry up.
You are in that situation. You are being very emotional. And I guess the point of those people is to not be emotional, to be very just like, this is my job. But yeah.
It was horrible. Glad he's okay.
Absolutely horrible. And yes, thankfully it came out after the game pretty quickly that he was awake and conscious. And then it has come out in the days after that he has broken multiple bones in his face.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. It was a fractured cheekbone or something.
Fractured cheekbone, and I believe all I can see in this headline is multiple other bone fractures and a severe level of concussion, which is to be expected. Obviously, our thoughts go out to him. I saw something, I don't know if this is reputable or not, but I saw someone say that either a member of his family or his partner works in like plastic surgery or beautician and stuff, so was able to know patter about it. Like I saw something about that. So it was like, that was comforting to them or something like that. Basically, the point is, thankfully, he looks like he's going to be okay in the long term. Obviously, the short term, he's going to have to recover and he's been through surgery. But the great thing, you were almost thinking in that moment, oh, this game means absolutely fucking nothing anymore. It does not matter if it gets stopped. No. The priority was him.
Yeah, and thankfully, like, I questioned kind of people's attendance to him, but I'm certainly not going to question anything about their profession. They do incredible work. So, yeah, glad he's okay. It's just it's a real shame as well that obviously now they look as though they could actually sneak through, kind of.
Yeah.
So if his tournament's over, that's a real shame, but I'm sure he can cheer them on.
And to bring it back to that kind of footballness, what I will be honest, I was raging after the game and stuff. There was a part of me that was like, I'm glad they got that moment as a team that they get through for him and they're holding up
Yeah,
the
because
shirt and stuff like
look,
that.
we were, like I say, we were never going to win that game anyway because of the
Yeah.
negative setup, our approach, and just I almost want to say a lack of belief, which astounds me really because Steve Clark, Steve Clark's snobbery towards the levels that we're playing at. You know, we've got players that are playing in the top half of the Premier League week
Yeah.
in, week out for their teams. So I don't know. It's so infuriating because it's the same old Scotland, man.
Yeah.
Every single campaign, even in qualifying, like this is the sort of stuff that used to happen to us in qualifying, but now we actually get to these tournaments having scooshed qualifying, and it still happens. Like there has to be something fundamentally wrong. Like what are we doing that the smaller nations get so right?
Yeah, definitely. And that was kind of summed up in the last 10 minutes, where, as you mentioned, Steve Clark doesn't do anything for 70. And then, in like how a child would view football, just goes, oh, I'm going from doing nothing to just chucking Kenny McLean on at left back and just going, we're just going to put everyone forward. In the
Grant Hanley up
last,
front.
yeah, in the last 5 minutes.
How bad is that stat? Sorry to cut you off, but 4 or 5 shots on target, and 2 of them came from Grant Hanley throughout
Yeah,
the
it's
tournament.
mad. It's
That
absolutely
I
mad.
mean, that just sums it up. The
Yeah,
graphic that William Hill put out, where it was
yeah.
like, what was it, expected goals, like shots on target and all that, and they rank them. There's
And
only
we're
a
just at the
couple where we're
bottom, basically.
23rd out of
Yeah.
24, but the rest it's all 24th out of 24, and you're just like, what an absolute embarrassment. It would be as well not qualifying if you're going to do that.
Yeah, if
What actually
that's
is
what
the
you're going to
point?
turn up, yeah.
Like now, I hate to look into it as deeply as I'm about to, but the Spain win at Hampden, where Rodri was green, effectively meaningless. The late comeback in Oslo against Norway, effectively meaningless. Everybody's hard work to get the Georgia game on at Hampden and throughout that horrendous, I was going to say hurricane almost, effectively meaningless. All that hard work, you know, doing brilliantly. I mean, opening a campaign with 5 wins for the first time ever, getting yourself in such a great position, ready to qualify for the tournament, and then that's what you produce while you're at the tournament. It's just baffling, astounding.
And it's like, this is probably one of those times where people who are members of the Tartan Army or are just really big Scotland fans and have watched all those games will probably turn to us just now and say, well, we got amazing moments from those games and stuff like that. And
And
absolutely,
I can appreciate that
yeah.
totally.
But, like, well, bluntly, that's not my experience. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to give our views of the situation. I'm not bothered about things that I wasn't a part of.
McIver, there must be a tiny part of them that just thinks, well, what was the point in that now?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you see in those final 10 minutes of the Hungary game, Hungary could have won that game 3-0 in the last 10 minutes with the
Oh,
chances they
hit
had.
the post. I thought the chance where they hit the post, I thought, oh my god, this actually, as much as I'm saying that, like these tend like that them licking
I know what you're going to
them
say.
nicking the late winner was no surprise. But when they hit the post, you're actually thinking, "Oh my
It's
god,
on. It's happening.
this just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
This can't happen. I can't fathom what I'm about to see here.
Yeah.
They've spurned a glorious opportunity to leave it wide open for us. But even after they hit the post, we did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing
Absolutely
of note.
nothing.
There was one big chance with Grant Hanley where he should score, and that was it.
But that doesn't even get counted because
No,
there was a foul in the build up, so it wouldn't have counted even without it.
exactly. It's that bad that I'm scraping for stuff to try and be positive about. That was it.
Right. I have, however, I was about to move on to the final point, but I have remembered the big talking point from the game, just as you mentioned this. So thank you very much. Otherwise, we would have
Oh,
ignored the biggest talking
my
point.
my pleasure.
As you said, Lawrence Shanklin got brought on as a sub. However, when he came on, He wasn't the only person that came
Oh
on.
my God.
He came on with
This
Stuart
could be a new
Armstrong.
low for the national team.
Came on with Stuart Armstrong. And Stuart Armstrong was involved in definitely the most contentious point of the entire game, as Armstrong is played through into the Hungarian box. There is a coming together between Stuart Armstrong and is it Orban? Is
I
that
think
who
it
it
is, yeah.
was?
I think
I'm
it
going
is
to
Big
double
Willie
check who
Orban.
it was. And the referee immediately doesn't even entertain it in terms of a possibility for a penalty. Now, you've seen the Alan Shearer quotes. You've seen
Yes.
everybody's quotes.
Literally every single pundit that I've heard talking about this game is adamant that it's a penalty kick.
What are your thoughts on it?
I was screaming for it,
Mm-hmm. So was I. I will say
but
that. I was screaming on it.
when I see it back, I don't think it is.
That is basically my stance. My stance is I wouldn't be surprised by either
If
version
it
of the
was given
decision.
or it
Yeah,
been waved away. Yeah.
yeah. I've seen
I
hundreds of them given and I've seen hundreds of them not given.
right. My frustration is with Stuart Armstrong looking to buy the
Yeah, just
penalty as
hit
opposed
it.
to getting
Just
a shot.
fucking hit it.
Exactly. Exactly. He's looking for it, and even then, he gives as much as he receives.
Yep.
So I thought it was at the time, and then when I saw the replay back, I was like, I'm actually not too sure. And then I don't think it is, but I can see why people are adamant that
There's
it
also the
is.
conversation. I've still not properly seen it, the official thing, where there was talks of that Armstrong was actually offside, so it wouldn't have mattered
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. So yeah, I mean they'd have looked for something to blow up about anyway. But
Yeah.
I actually didn't think that's where you were going. I totally forgot about the penalty because I just thought if we're relying on that to get us through a group stage, then we're at rock bottom, even lower than I think we are. I thought you were going to mention the fact that Lewis Morgan has actually played for Scotland
That
at
was what
a
I was
major
about
tournament.
to mention because
I,
that was
I,
going to be my part of the Steve Clark has lost his fucking mind. But he actually came on and did all right.
he did, but
But in the
I mean, I'm not.
context of that mental 10 minutes, he did all right.
James Forrest hasn't kicked a ball,
Yeah,
and
it's
yet
insane that Forrest
towards
got
the end
no
of the
minutes.
season, he dragged Celtic pretty much to the title.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Gould's put holes in his fucking wall, by the way, when he's at home going, oh, so he gets in, does he? And gets
I
minutes.
I honestly thought to myself, I thought, never mind losing to Belarus in the rain at Hampden or the last minute equaliser stroke winner against Liechtenstein. Lewis Morgan coming on to represent Scotland at the European Championships could be a new low for the national team.
Yeah, it was not
My
good.
goodness.
Now, yes, in the most Scottish way possible. Not
Oh,
only do we,
inevitable. I wish I'd have seen what Hungary were in play.
oh, I know. Like, it almost, for me, it almost doesn't matter that we conceded right at the end because it
No.
it meant the same. A 0-0 draw and a 1-0 loss meant we weren't getting through, and that's the only
Well,
priority.
could we have snuck through on 2 points? Potentially.
No, as it currently
But as
stands, no.
but we weren't to know that, if you see what I mean.
Very true. You make a good
Because the
point.
fixtures were yet to be played.
Yep, very
So
true.
I like now, had we held on for a 0-0 and we're shitting ourselves watching other people's games,
Yeah,
like McIver, it was simple. Beat Hungary, worry about the permutations after.
yeah,
I see Ukraine have crashed out on 4 points, the first European
yeah.
Championship team to ever do so, which is an absolute liberty. But the hard facts are these. There were 6 groups in this tournament. The top 2 advance to make 12 teams. The four best third place teams
Yep.
join them in the last 16. So a third of the tournament, 8 teams out of 24, head home at the first available opportunity. It is absolutely no surprise to me that Scotland were in said 8 teams.
Yeah. It has never been easier to get out a group, and we couldn't do it.
Considering the fact that we've never been out a group before,
Yeah.
I wonder if this is just a massive token of regret by that playing squad, by the gaffer, by everyone involved. And I know people within the Scotland setup, and I'm absolutely devastated for them because it would have meant the absolute world for them to be part of that team to get them through. But it's just, I mean, if we're relying on a penalty that isn't given against Hungary, then we've got far bigger issues
Yeah.
than the vast majority of the country think.
So the final whistle comes and goes. Scotland are once again not
Can you
getting
say a
through.
really well worked counter attack?
It
Considering
is.
it comes from our
It
corner
is
kick, they
the
work it
the
very
big
well.
guy, the number 9 tackling McGregor, and then being the assister.
He's a unit,
I
that
love
boy.
him.
He's a cult hero.
I
For
will
this tournament
say,
alone, he's a cult hero.
I will say, I felt really bad for him seeing that interview where he comes
Oh,
out and
heartbreaking.
it's like, listen, I am sure folk were pricks to him, but all I saw was people being like, I love him. Look
Yeah,
at him. He's
yeah, I know.
class. And I hope he does feel that people love him because he's
Yeah,
class.
absolutely. It's such a judgmental world that we live in now.
Yeah.
So it's I also I felt for him. I thought fair play, big man.
And he gets the assist to potentially send
You
Hungary through. Who knows?
you have your moment. The Hungarians are wild, don't they?
I
Oh
know.
my
I
God.
know.
I hate to go back to Hearts because I'm aware that this is Scotland, but if we were ever drawing a Ferencvaros or an FK Sarajevo,
I'm no god.
oh, sorry, that's Bosnia, but a Ferencvaros or an Oipest or
Yeah.
the Balkans are crazy, mate. They are
Mad.
absolutely wild. Great fans, but they're nuts.
Now, I will say this. I've caveated my relationship with the national team long before and in this podcast. I was really surprised at myself as to how angry I was after the game.
Because of because I
Steve
guess
Clark.
because of Steve Clark, because of the player pool that we currently have.
We should be doing better than we
Yeah.
are. And
We should at least we should have possession with a purpose. We talked about the 77% there, but that was just
Scott McKenna
so
had the most amount
laboured.
of touches than any player on the park.
Is that right? I didn't
Scott
know that.
McKenna had the most amount of passes by anyone on the park. I would wager at least 65% of them were horizontal passes to Jack Hendry.
I was going to say, who's he passing to most frequently? Probably Jack Hendry. Yeah.
Just
Doesn't surprise me. Angus Gunn maybe get a couple of touches.
yeah, fair play to him.
Oh,
So the reaction comes in the hours that follows, and I've
in the
personally,
days that follow,
yeah,
people are still
exactly.
really angry.
Yeah, I've never seen such a level of anger towards Clark specifically. There's always been a contingent from what I see of people who don't like Clark. Most of them seem to be Rangers fans because of the bye bye Rangers comment.
That is one of the most underrated moments in Scottish football history, to be fair. Regardless of what you think of Steve Clark and his Scotland tenure, that moment alone, the bye bye Rangers, is iconic. That is elite shithousery. That will always have a tiny little special place in my heart.
My reaction to this is Steve Clark has to go. Now, I believe, and I maybe got the words wrong when I spoke about this earlier in the week, where I said Steve Clark was arrogant. Now, I've seen a lot of people who say he is, and they're standing by that. Maybe I shouldn't use the word arrogant, but I definitely would stand by stubborn. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Stubborn is the word.
At the last Euros, his loyalty to players killed us. He didn't play Billy Gilmore in the opening game. He didn't play Craig Gordon in the opening game, and that killed us.
Ironic that in the second performance, of both tournaments, Billy Gilmore came in and was arguably our best player.
Yes, exactly. Learn, Steve, for the love of God. But loyalty, especially in football, listen, we're seeing everything that's happening at Inverness, where loyalty just doesn't seem to exist at that football club, right?
Even Greenock Morton today, Lewis
Yes,
Strapp
with Lewis
over
Strapp
a
and
decade at the
everything like
club.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
And his mum having to make a comment on
that was
Twitter
amazing.
and stuff
His
like
mum
that.
got out. Big fan of that.
Yeah. Loyalty in football is something to be protected and celebrated.
Absolutely.
However, loyalty can also be your biggest downfall. And I just feel that Clark's stubbornness in a system and certain players is a detriment to this current setup and team generally.
McIver, you are big into, superheroes and all this other rubbish.
Yep.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I did not expect Commissioner Gordon Dark Knight quotes.
Steve Clark is in grave danger of becoming a villain after previously being a hero, is the way that I look at it. But in saying this, and I'm glad you've brought this up, right now, the SFA would not be blessed with candidates aplenty.
Mm-hmm.
To the people that saw David Moyes on the telly, instantly put two and two together and went, he's Scottish, he's out of job, he's nearing, the end of his management career, he should take the reins of the national team. Absolutely not. David Moyes was chased out of West Ham, having won them a European trophy, countless of their best Premier League finishes with regards to playing style. Steve Clark has been chastised as the Scotland manager for concerns about playing style. It is like for like. It is embarrassing. It is just so narrow-minded to assume that David Moyes is the natural successor to Steve Clark. Have a bit of ambition. Let's think outside the box, and let's not go like for like.
I'm actually very glad you brought up David Moyes, because I thought he was embarrassing in his punditry for refusing to entertain that Clark was at fault for any of it, and just making the argument.
That's because he wants the job.
I know.
That's because everybody. That's what everybody says.
I don't give a shit who gets the next Scotland job. I care about the punditry that I'm watching, and I'm very I really don't like it. I
think the rest of it he nailed though.
I don't, because that's my next point, where I think it's a frankly pathetic argument to make that we just don't have the quality players.
No, I think we do have quality players. My annoyance is more at Graham Souness after the first game saying Germany have got 85 million or whatever it is staying in Germany.
Now,
we have 5 million. Roy Keane was stood next to him going, yeah, that's a good excuse. I mean, Croatia reached the World Cup final and they've got a population of 4 million.
However, though, that conversation can't be had by pundits because they're not intelligent enough to speak about everything, where it's you need to speak about then the infrastructure, the social and political attitudes
the
towards
external
football.
Factors
It's not. Both of them are wrong. You can't just look at a population size and go, therefore, you should either be underperforming, overperforming.
As soon as more wrong than Moyes for me.
I think they're both equally wrong in terms of I'm just I want just James Horncastle on my punditry and nobody else.
God, the undisputed GOAT.
That's just.
He should do the Italy games, actually.
Yeah,
he should.
Exactly.
They should draft him in for the Italy
games. Want people like that. I'm so sick of that. I just wouldn't have the majority of former players and managers as pundits. I'd have Cesc Fabregas and James Horncastle.
How good has Cesc Fabregas been? He is a rose between two thorns with Rio Ferdinand and Mika Richards.
Yeah.
You can so obviously tell the pundits that have previously coached or managed in comparison to those that have never given it a go.
Done it. But yeah, I really didn't like this attitude and argument that was coming out that we don't have the players to compete at this. It's see, against Germany, fully fine. Have that as your argument because that's right. Switzerland, probably also. You can probably say that, we're maybe
similar, more even than people think,
yeah,
to be honest.
But still, we are better than Hungary. Our players are better quality than Hungary. But we were tactically wrong against Hungary.
But you can't, I agree with that. But again, you'd be overlooking key areas of the team where we aren't blessed.
Absolutely.
One of which is centre forward. One of which is arguably the goalkeeper. Certainly in this tournament, it was the right-hand side.
Definitely. But again, it's this is what my point was against Moyes. That's way too simplistic a statement to say we don't have the quality players.
It is, but then I think when he was talking about kind of indoor facilities and that sort of thing.
That's a better, bigger conversation to be having that needs to be had.
Kind of no ball games, the fact that goals are taken down.
That's what I'm speaking about.
To play.
That's what I'm speaking about, where it's we can't compare ourselves to Croatia. Because we don't know what the Croatian grassroots level of football is. I don't know if they have no ball games
in Croatian.
That's what I mean. I don't know if they have that. That's a conversation that cannot be had in a punditry studio at the Euros.
Right, okay. So you mean in terms of the actual action with regards to Moyes? Right,
yes, exactly. Okay. It's have that conversation, but don't just bring it up.
Great point.
Yeah, the point is good, but just kind of going and then that's all I'm going to say. It's
Maybe
like,
not
well,
necessarily as manager, but could there be an advisory role for David Moyes at the
maybe.
SFA? Or
Who knows?
I don't know. But he is not. And I love David Moyes. I've always had a soft spot for
Yeah,
David Moyes,
whatever.
but he's not the answer. Not when he's just been chased out the door at West Ham, surrounding concerns about his style of play. I would get it if, you know, I Andy Robertson should have a word with Jurgen Klopp and say, "You've not got the energy for club level. Here's a wee part-time gig. See what you can do."
I'd
But
take that.
he's the only one that's unattached. That I just think there's even.
Zidane's not attached. Let's just go and get Zidane.
But he's not. He's not got a link. Is my point. Like
He wants
Robertson
to
could
care
try
about.
and sway him.
He cares about the heartlands of football and wants to come to a romantic place when
Is
he
he?
can do it.
Is he one of the Largs mafia, Zinedine Zidane? Did he
Yes.
go to Largs for his badges?
Exactly.
Or, well, I mean, that iconic goal was scored at Hampden.
Exactly.
Real Madrid.
Bring back the
There's
memories.
there's your link, Zizou. Come on aboard. I don't know.
think
He's eyeing up the French job in it for Deschamps.
I think we will have the single most outlandish pick for the Scotland job with Zizou as our option. But
This
I will
isn't
say,
serious. I'm not seriously
Yeah,
suggesting
exactly.
Jurgen Klopp the leader. That's just pie in the sky. But I'd rather that they at least showed an ounce of ambition than just going, David Moyes, you're out of job. Here you
Yeah.
go.
I will say, I really, and this is a kind of a more serious point, I thought the way that Steve Clark handled himself after the game was disgusting. I thought it was embarrassing. I thought it was pathetic.
I knew that he would single out the penalty as the key reason as to why we didn't win that game.
I thought if he did that, I would have been like, oh, for fuck's sake, Steve, come on.
But it was so abundantly obvious that was going to be the case. Not a single journalist asked, "Do you fear for your job?"
Yeah,
because,
no,
because
exactly.
the Scottish media, it's all jobs for the boys. It's far too cozy. They want to be the manager's pal. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I look down south at Gareth Southgate and the criticism he receives,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be at that end of the scale either.
Yeah, totally.
I'm hoping for a happy medium where it's somewhere in between.
We can have grown-up conversations.
Yeah, we want you to do well, but ultimately we're going to call you out if we believe that something's wrong, or why did you do this? Why have you dropped him? Why did you play 3 at the back, 5 at the back? Why isn't there 2 up front? Why is there not enough width coming from the wide areas? Why has James Forrest not received a minute? Like, loads of questions that could get asked, but instead it's just a kind of, well, we're out, so
yeah,
that'll be that.
That annoyed me about how he just focuses on the penalty. The point I was making about like how embarrassing and disgusting he was his comments about the referee specifically.
What relevance does that carry?
Yep.
If there's going to be a European referee, how could you have yes, there has been some at this tournament, but to me that's flawed.
It means nothing.
If anything, I'd be taking the European referees and sticking them in the Copa America and the South American, North American ones and sticking them in the Euros.
Hasn't that been happening? At the Brazil game, the referee was Italian. So I saw they were speaking about that. Like,
I mean, that's and then coming out and saying he doesn't speak the language.
Well, it's just. We'll call it for what it is. It's just xenophobia. Like that's all it is. Like it's just horrific.
It's of absolutely no
relevance
or significance.
This is irrelevant in terms of it doesn't mean anything. But then it comes out that the guy speaks multiple languages and is like fucking really bilingual and stuff and can speak much better than Steve Clark can. Like that doesn't matter. But it's just the wee cherry on top of the cake that's like, oh, and actually the guy's a fucking genius in communications. So it was just a disaster with that being the fact that he wouldn't come out and do a TV interview and chucking Angus Gunn out there was just ridiculous.
It's poor. But, I mean, I would have thought that one of the coaches would have.
Yeah, I thought someone would
like a John Carver or somebody, but just no.
James Morrison's on the coaching setup. Just chuck him out. Go. Just with a wee beard. We've not heard you speak for about 8 years. Just go and speak. Speak about the time you're at West Brom. Go for it. Say something. But yes. And absolutely, the only times I've not enjoyed this Euros have been when Scotland's been playing.
England are a boring watch as well, though.
I've not watched a single England game, I will say that.
So, lucky you.
Yeah, they've apparently
I was lucky. I was out the other night for, who did they play? Slovenia.
Yep.
I mean, I watched the Denmark game, awful.
Oh, that's
Even
not true. I
Serbia,
caught the second half of the Denmark game where
oh,
Denmark looked way
oh,
better.
oh. I mean, and see the side of the draw that they're on as well.
It's
What?
ridiculous.
Like, why?
Yeah,
How does this happen? Every single tournament, it's
yeah.
such an easy ride.
It's so
I
annoying.
am begging for the Dutch or whoever it is to put them out, possibly Italy in like the quarters or something.
I
But
don't think they can play Italy, France, Germany, or Spain until the final.
no, I think Italy are on their side, isn't
Or
it? Is it
Italy on
not?
their
Is it
side as well.
Switzerland play Italy or
And
something? I thought I
Austria's on
saw
their
that.
side. I will say, I'm very much Team Austria
How
this
good have
this
they been?
Euros. They've been
How
class.
good
I
have they
love
been?
them.
I can't
Love
believe they topped their
Sabitzer.
group. That is just incredible. Nobody in the right mind would have backed Austria finished top of that group. Incredible.
So I will finish off with this because let's try and finish in some positivity. We're speaking about there who we like. What has been the things you've enjoyed at these
The
Euros?
Turkey Georgia game I could have
Yep,
watched over and over and over and over.
yep,
Um, nations that have a goal,
yeah,
unlike us.
yeah,
Romania, Albania, despite their
yeah,
horrendous group.
yeah.
Um,
Georgia,
Georgia have given
Georgia,
a
who,
good
by the
account of
way,
themselves.
at halftime are still 1-0 up against Portugal.
Bloody hell. Um, trying to think who else. I mean, even Serbia were unfortunate against England. If they
Yeah.
actually finished their dinner, they
They
might have
still
got
got
something
that
off them.
moment of a 94th minute equaliser with their
Yeah,
fans and stuff.
Big Jovic, who we know well
Yep,
because of,
exactly.
I mean, yeah. Um, yeah, just a fearlessness from the likes of Romania, Albania, Georgia, countless others. I mean, who did I see? Or Slovakia through as well.
Yep, yep, they got
Yeah,
through
it's incredible.
with their draw against Belgium. Yeah, it finished. Oh no, Slovakia didn't get through, but are going to be going through in terms of they finished third, but they're currently, as we sit here at 51 minutes past 8 on the 26th, the current teams going through are Netherlands first, with goals scored,
That's
taking them
mad that they
through.
finished third in that group as well.
I know. Slovakia second, as they are on equal goal difference and points with Netherlands. However, they scored a
I've
goal
scored fewer
less.
goals.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Third, as it currently stands, is Georgia, who are also on 4 points. But that is obviously with the second half to go.
Oh, yeah, the caveat that they need to hold on against
Yep.
Portugal.
And then fourth, going through in the last team is Slovenia. And
If Georgia make it to the knockout stages and we did them home and away in qualifying, that is an
yep.
absolute embarrassment.
And then the two that miss out are Hungary if the Georgia game stays the same. However, if Georgia don't win, Hungary will go through on 3 points. And then finally, the other team that were almost as shite as us, Croatia. Fuck you, Luka. That's for the game at Hampden.
That's only because they're all about 105 in
Yeah,
the
exactly.
pool.
It's not really like a victory. We're all in our prime coming in, and
They'll
they've
still
got
wipe
like,
the floor with us as well
yeah,
because we've got played in the Nations League. That'll be embarrassing.
yeah,
Luka
exactly.
Modric at 50 years old just running and pinging passes.
Hitting fucking Rabonas in the top
Oh
corner.
my God, disgusting. What a
But
player.
anyway, massive thank you to listen to these couple of episodes speaking about Scotland at the Euros.
Got everything off your chest?
I think so. Oh, I'll mention my thing that I've enjoyed that's been a surprise. And it's that Andros Townsend is a wonderful co-commentator. And I never thought I'd say those words.
Nice.
He reminds me of Ali McCoist, where he clearly did so much research into the teams he was going to do, but doesn't just want to say things for saying things. He wants to
Hold
contribute.
on at the right
Yeah,
moment. And
exactly.
yeah,
And
nice.
that Croatia Albania game was made great by him just really enjoying the game. And when the ref put the whistle to his mouth to blow, he just goes, "Oh no, don't!" Like, and it felt like a fan watching it.
That's a good point, actually. Who's been like your favorite pundit and least favorite pundit? I
That's
guess
oh god.
pundit and co-com, like they can both kind of, they're under the same
Okay,
umbrella,
okay,
really.
cool. I'll tell you, my favorite pundit has been between two. It's been between Cesc Fabregas,
Yes, Fabregas is
who's
mine.
been wonderful, but my answer is probably Rachel Corsie. It really
Very good
annoyed
as
me.
well.
It
Yeah,
really
very
annoyed
good.
me that she was only on for Scotland games.
I
I would have
know.
really liked to see her speaking about other teams. And my favourite co-coms, obviously, a mention for Ali McCoist. Just
The GOAT.
because he's the best. But
Oh
yeah,
man.
I'll go Andros Townsend because I've just really enjoyed him and Guy Mowbray with that Albania Croatia game was my favourite duo that we've had so far.
Nice. All
So
right.
yeah,
Least
it's been.
favorite?
Oh God, everybody else. My least favourite is Lee
Rio
Dixon.
Ferdinand.
Lee Dixon for commentator. Lee Dixon could.
Lee Dixon and Sam Matterface.
Yeah,
Those
that's the
two are
worst duo. That's
horrendous.
the worst
Oh,
duo,
they're
100%.
awful.
And worst pundit are people like Rio, like Roy Keane, like those type of people who
I
just
don't mind Roy Keane.
offer nothing but inquantifiables. Just speaking about how you need to run harder and fight more and try. I'm like, that's not analysis. I don't care about that. I want to hear actual analysis. Speaking about it, Cesc never goes into those quantifiers. Cesc
No.
speaks about the game and tactics and passing strategies.
Mika Richards is starting to do my tatting as well.
I know what you mean.
I love his podcast with Lineker and Shearer, and I did like him on A League of Their Own, but I've stopped watching that now. I barely watch CBS, but apparently by all accounts that's good. He's just everywhere.
He's good. He's really good on CBS. That CBS team is fucking it. Kate Abdo, Thierry Henry, Jamie Carragher,
really good.
Mika
I
Richards.
like,
they're great.
But you know it's bad when he's probably the standout of those three.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
So,
but yeah, apart from Scotland, it's been a great tournament. Like it's been so much fun. Every goal seems to be a raker.
Apart from the British Isles, really.
Yeah, basically England have been shite
as well.
But like all the fan stuff, that chant that the Netherlands do is my favorite thing ever. I love it so much. It's great. I'm very much Team Austria.
What about the boy with the saxophone as well? The German
great,
boy
the German boy, class. Like it's just felt like a real football tournament. And I'm sure. And listen, we've seen it. Everybody that we know over in Germany has loved their time there.
Absolute ball, yeah.
Stuttgart was apparently a bit of a nightmare, but everywhere else seems to just be fantastic.
The transport and totals have been an absolute nightmare. So I don't think it's just a Stuttgart problem.
So yeah, listen, we hope you're enjoying the tournament. We hope you enjoy the rest of it. You're just hoping England don't win because that'll ruin it. I'll take back everything I said about how good this tournament is.
It's actually set up for them to do it though.
I know. I know. It's a nightmare. But
please get put out by some jobbers as early as possible. Yeah, thanks.
Exactly. So massive thank you for listening. We will be taking probably a week or two until pre-season starts domestically to get going, just so that there's actually things for us to speak about for.
Well, the boys were back today, so
they were indeed. They were indeed, because yes, for those who don't know and have just followed us through the algorithms of Euros podcast, we are primarily a Heart of Midlothian podcast, and the proper stuff's about to start now. So we've made about 1 million fucking sign-ins. They're so excited. For as bad as Scotland have been, Hearts are in such a good place, and I can't wait to get back speaking about them. So we'll be back in a wee while speaking about enjoy the rest of the tournament. And if you've enjoyed the rest of this podcast, the past couple of podcasts we've done, and if you just enjoy us generally, please let us know. Leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you've been watching us on YouTube, please have a like, comment, and subscribe. We're at Perth to Paisley on all forms of social media, perthtopaisley@gmail.com. I've not been paying attention to the emails over the summer, so apologies if you've sent in stuff and you're just like, why are you not responding to this thing? I'll be on it. Don't worry. This coming week, I'll be back on it. Adam, where can they get you on all the socials?
All my thoughts and every social network at Adam T. Kendall. What about yourself, mate?
I'm at DMcIver22. We'll be back soon. Enjoy the rest of the Euros. Bye-bye.
Take care, team. Catch you after.